So instead of using inner HTML, which, let's be honest, is a lot easier to do this, let's actually manually create all of these DOM nodes and insert them into the DOM. And let's also turn Apple TV back on, since it hates me. Thank you for reminding me. All right. So, one thing at a time. This stuff that we commented out. Document create element strong. What does that line do by itself? It basically does this, right? Creates an empty strong element. Now, it's not actually creating HTML. It's creating the same object that that HTML creates, but it's the actual object. This next line, since we saved this to a variable, set the text content property to name. That basically puts the name inside there, right? Next, appendChild. This just sticks this inside the details div. Can't use inner HTML because this isn't HTML. This is the actual object. So since we have the actual DOM node, the thing that the HTML represents, we can't just set it like we would a string. We need to append it to the object, like pushing it onto the end of an array, kind of. Make sense? So knowing that, what do we have here? How many elements do we have in this highlighted area? We do have 4. I see several of those. And that, which I assume was not saying 5, but rather raising your hand to tell me 4. Yes. So there's 4 elements there. A UL and 4 LIs. So I'm going to call, I could call my UL, I could call it UL. I'm going to call it list, just to make the point that it doesn't have to share the name of the element. It's just a variable name that we chose arbitrarily. Well, not arbitrarily because it made sense, but document.createElement UL, right? Just the name of the element, the type of element that it is. We also need to create 3 LIs. So how about name, item, LI stands for list item, right? Name item, document, create element, LI. Oh man, I'm going to teach you a super secret text editor trick. This works in Visual Studio Code as well as in Atom, and I think it works in Sublime as well. Well, I think it works in Atom. Actually, you might need to have an extension for Atom. But anyway, you can try it out. Let's just copy this, paste it 2 more times. Then what I want to do, never mind. It's not going to work. Just know that there's a neat trick that I'm holding out on you. We'll get there. So instead of name item, let's do color item and age item. Okay, now we've got these. Fat lot of good that does us. The LIs need to have something inside them, right? How can we set the contents? How about the name? Let's start there. Name item, text content. Ought to do it right. And we want it to look like this. So hey, let's put some backticks and just paste that in there like that. NAME : space. Use our little interpolation trick and just put the name right in there. age item is going to be the same. Age item dot text content equals age colon $, curly brace age. But color isn't quite that simple, is it? Let's pretend it is and see what happens. Oops, what am I doing here? Okay, so now I've got all these things, but they're not on the page yet, are they? I've created these DOM elements, but they're just floating around in memory. So I need to add the list items to the UL, right? So, I mean, I could just create the list last, I suppose. List.appendChild, name item, list.appendChild, color item, list.appendChild, age item. Am I done? Now all of those LIs are inside the list, but where's the list? It's nowhere. So we need to append those to details. So far, so good. Let's see. Evan, I have been leaving you alone. No fair. What's your favorite color, sir? Green. That's an awfully light green. That's more like it. What are you, about 52? Go. Yay. So we got the HTML as text. How could we fix this very easily by just changing something very small on line 23? One little tiny change to this one line ought to fix it. So the problem is what? What is color div? Yeah. Holy smokes. Cameron changed text content to inner HTML. He's out of control. We might have to take his gun and his badge. He's a loose cannon. The mayor just called. He did $4 million of damage to the city. What's your favorite color? Let's say about 29, give or take. So why did that work? What is color div? Color div is a string, right? It's a string containing some HTML. If we set text content, it will treat whatever we pass in, text, as just plain text, right? So it will not parse that HTML. It'll just include that HTML in the text. Inner HTML, however, will let us do that. So that's the easiest way to solve that problem. We're trying to avoid inner HTML, but that does get the job done. Does it make sense why that works? So that's a start. I'll go ahead and commit that. Add form values using DOM methods. Not thrilled with that commit message, but it'll work.